Welcome back, Pokemon fans. Angel of the Night here. We are back again with more Pokemon Scarlet content, and as you guys can see, we are in the Grand Challenge 2025 Part 2. That's right, we finally are going to swap up our teams here and get into the next competition. As you can see, we have Ninetales and Exeggutor, and of course our opponent has a Incineroar and a Hydreigon. With the Ninetales, of course, we've set up the Drought, which is going to be able to activate the Chlorophyll onto our Exeggutor. Now, with the Exeggutor, of course, we are going to go in for the Protect here because our odds are not in our favor. We're going to end up swapping out the Ninetales for Indeedee. Now, the reason why we're going to do this is, of course, we want to be able to set up the whole Psychic terrain. That way, any kind of priority move from the Incineroar will not be in effect. And, of course, you know, it's going to be able to boost up some Psychic powers. However, we do have to acknowledge the fact that the opponent Pokemon are both of the Dark type, so, of course, our Psychic type moves are not necessarily going to help us here. So, here we go. We've got the Psychic Surge all set up. We're going to go in for the Protect and hopefully be able to resist some moves from the opposing team. The Incineroar, of course, is going in for the Fake Out, so we had a great prediction here. There's the Dark Pulse, of course, coming from the Hydreigon into the Exeggutor, but of course we are protecting, and we're not going to get any kind of damage this round. Now, what we are going to do, we're going to go for the Terrestrialization with the Exeggutor, and we're going to go for, I believe it was the Tera Fire here, or it might have been the Leaf Storm. But as you can see, I'm definitely pondering what our options are. We do lock in for the Tera Fire into the Hydreigon, and then of course we're also going to try to do a little bit of strategy with the Indeedee. Of course, you guys know we have the whole Follow Me situation on the go, so that might actually help us out here further as well. Hydreigon, of course, going to be withdrawn. In comes the Ninetales, and of course this is an Alolan Ninetales, which means that it's Ice and Fairy. That's going to set up the Snow Warning, of course. That's going to set up some Hail, or Snowscape rather, in this generation. And if they do end up getting the Aura Veil off later on in the match, it's going to boost up some stats, but we'll get there later. So as you can see, we are going to go in for the Terrestrial Fire, and we are going to redirect with the whole Follow Me, and that's pretty much the idea behind Indeedee. It's there to be that support Pokemon, and of course to be able to set up that Psychic terrain. So here we go with the Tera Blast into the Ninetales. And luckily for us, they don't actually have a Focus Sash like most of these Ninetales do nowadays, and we actually be picking up the KO. We get a little bit of HP loss there because we are a Life Orb, of course. There is, I believe that was a Parting Shot. Yes, Parting Shot gets hurt by the Rocky Helmet, and of course it goes back to the opponent's party. Now, of course, one Pokemon down, there are still 3 Pokemon on the team. Our opponent is now going to bring in the Paldean Waterbred Tauros. Now, of course, it does have the Intimidate, going to be able to drop the attack stat. Luckily for us, both of our Pokemon are actually special attackers, so that's going to be very helpful. So right off the bat, I can say that there's definitely no Aqua Jets going to be coming our way because of the whole Psychic terrain. All priority type moves, of course, are null and void. And of course, now they're trying to debate, well, are we going to bring in Incineroar or are we going to bring in the Hydreigon? Personally, I think they're going to come in with the Incineroar, but they actually end up coming in with the Hydreigon. So Hydreigon, of course, it is a Dark Dragon type Pokemon, so it's not going to be able to be hit by any kind of Psychic type moves. But we are definitely going to want to try to get this Tauros out here as soon as possible. We are going to want to also change the weather back to the sunny day or to extreme sun, just so that way we can get our boost from our Chlorophyll. The Chlorophyll, of course, we want to be able to boost our speed with this Exeggutor. That's kind of the idea here. To play it safe, I did end up going in for the Protect, so that way we don't get hit by any kind of moves. Tauros, of course, is also protecting, probably expecting like Expanding Force of some kind. Hydreigon, of course, going in for the Dark Pulse into the Ninetales. Luckily for us, we actually live. So we're going to lock in our Exeggutor's move into the Tauros. That is, I believe, the Expanding Force. But we actually end up going backwards and kind of debating. No, actually, sorry, we are actually into the Ninetales here. We are debating onto the Heat Wave or the Solar Beam. We do actually end up locking into the, I believe it was the Heat Wave. We're going to go in with the Leaf Storm here, not the Expanding Force. That is going to actually drop our special attack stat down onto that Exeggutor, but that's okay. We do have a Life Orb, of course. And here we go with the Heat Wave. Heat Wave is not going to be able to do very much to that High Dragon. We are actually going to get hit by an Earth Power here, and you know what? I didn't even think about Earth Power being on a High Dragon. Not something very common, not something that you really see, so that's definitely a unique set to me. We do have 2 more Pokemon. We have Indeedee, we also have Sneasler. Sneasler, of course, does have the Clear Amulet, so any kind of attack stat drops is just not going to happen with any kind of intimidations. Here we see the Incineroar coming back into play, and of course that is going to pose to be maybe a little bit of an issue there for us, but we'll see if we can maybe take out that big old nasty Incineroar. We do have the Close Combat, of course, onto the Sneasler. We lock into the High Dragon, and then of course with the Ninetales, we could technically go for the Heat Wave and be able to get some chip damage off onto the 2. We could go for the Weather Ball. There's a couple of options there. Obviously Solar Beam isn't going to do anything, but we do manage to get a Close Combat off onto that High Dragon, and we actually managed to pick up a KO, and that's a huge win for us, because High Dragon is definitely a problem Pokemon. Here is the Weather Ball. Of course it is turned to fire just because we are under the sun. It doesn't really do anything, but if the sun actually faded, of course, that would have actually been like a normal type move. So, you know, basically just trying to see what we can do there. Sneasler is, of course, still into the field. The weirdness has disappeared from the battle. The last Pokemon coming in for my team, of course, is going to be Indeedee. That's going to set up that whole psychic terrain there once again. And of course, with the Incineroar onto the field, it does have a bit of an issue there with the whole close combat with that Sneasler. So I'm really hoping that we're going to be able to pick up that KO. So let's go in with the close combat. And then of course with the Indeedee, there's really not much that we can do here. We can pretty much go for the Follow Me, which will redirect, but I didn't have Helping Hand onto it there just because there's so many Trick Room players out there. I decided to go with Imprison onto it, but anyways, we become the center of attention with Indeedee. We go for the close combat, and we managed to pick up the KO. So I hope you guys enjoyed the battle there today. If you did, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. Post your comments in the comment section down below. I can't wait to hear from you, and I will catch you in the next battle. Peace out.